the Lumix 24 to 105 f4 lens for the L mount. This is a lens that I've spoken about before on this channel at least once. It's pretty much my go-to lens for anything that I have any doubts on, really. I think the focal length is convenient as a lens can get, given that it can function with a constant aperture of f4, which for my purposes is more than enough light than I need. Even though I create photos that mostly have more dark or may appear to be more on the underexposed side, my photos tend to actually be made with quite a bunch of light. Though I do find that there is merit in individuals believing that f4 is not a wide enough aperture for a lens. For me, it is perfectly fine, and I think that in most situations, granted that I don't shoot much at nighttime, I don't shoot low light scenes, so different strokes, different folks, all that stuff, but it is certainly a lens I don't think should be overlooked. Some very quick housekeeping. I know that this is a very bright light behind me. It is the sun, and it is also London, so there might be clouds rolling by, so the light will fluctuate. I'm testing out. But let's get on with the lens. This lens I take pretty much everywhere that I go, and if I want to test out another lens, usually then this lens gets left behind. But I went to Australia to visit my brother, and my intention with this lens was that I was going to use it in situations where I didn't want to let my manual focusing ruin a potential shot. So at the Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary, that's where I put my 24 to 105 on my S5. My opinions on the lens's performance are pretty much the same as in my previous video. I think it works very well. There were some situations, unfortunately, where when I was shooting through a cage at the sanctuary, where I needed to resort to manual focus because the autofocus, even on the animal detect setting, it wasn't appropriate. And I'm not sure if that is the case with other lenses and other systems. I've never shot with other systems, so I don't know that. But overall, granted the flexibility this lens gives me, the convenience of just being able to know that that is the lens that by default I'm taking everywhere with me, it's okay. Most of the shots were pretty decent, perfectly in focus, and it was just through the cages that I had some issues. And this video was going to be about the Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary, which I think I'm going to get back to because I had a fantastic time at this place. I was in there for about 5 hours or so. I started off going in just to watch the bird feeding, which I didn't take my camera for. I just had my phone with me. No, I had a film camera. I had my Nikon F2 with me, and those photos aren't yet developed. I'll put some footage up here of the bird feeding, which was so much fun. After the lorikeet feeding, I went back to my Airbnb, which is close by, and I packed my bags and I came back to the wildlife sanctuary with my camera. And as I mentioned, I fully immersed myself in that place and had a lovely time. I have two highlights. The first one being, which is not my favorite part of the wildlife sanctuary, but is definitely in my top 3, was the lemurs. So when you go into the exotic section of the wildlife sanctuary, there are lemurs that are not in any cages or enclosures. I think they just get to roam around free, but they do so chaperoned by a volunteer. And they get to chill in the sun, they get to do the yoga pose that they do, and you do have to be conscientious to maneuver yourself carefully around them because they get a bit nervous and scared. First of all, there's an alpha. So as soon as the alpha does anything and gets up, the others are super jittery and scared. And then also, if you were, as a visitor, if you get too close or move too abruptly around them, they get nervous as well. But a fantastic experience, the lemurs. I'm very glad I got to meet them. And I would say that my overall highlight of the animal sanctuary was the baby koala section. So I've seen photos of koalas before, and from what I can see, they don't look particularly soft. So they look like they've got more like this thicker hair, but the babies are so cute. They look so soft and cuddly, and they are way more active than I realized. When you go see the adult koalas, they're pretty chill. They're there having the eucalyptus, which I think has some, I don't know if it's sedative qualities or whatever, but they're very, very chill. But the young baby koalas, they're quite active. They're constantly moving from branch to branch, up and down. They go to the ground, and as soon as they touch the ground, they scatter really fast. I didn't capture that on video, but it was such a cool experience. And then once they find a branch that they're comfortable in, they look so round and cute and furry and adorable that my heart melted every time I saw one of these baby koalas finding a little relaxed spot my lights just went out, and I'm not starting this video over. I recorded these videos yesterday. I've recorded 2 and the audio was completely shot, so I'm not doing this again. I hope you can understand. Let's check out what other photos I've got here. Tree kangaroos. Tree kangaroos I didn't know were a thing. They're little marsupials that like to live in trees. I'm glad I got to discover those. And one of my highlights was the red panda. Also in the exotic section, the red panda, a very calm, as far as I could tell. Maybe this particular copy of a panda, this particular red panda, very chill, walking around and just beautiful to look at. I don't know what these iguana lizards are called, but they are everywhere. I'm assuming they are everywhere in Australia, but they were everywhere in Brisbane. They were everywhere along the Gold Coast. They were everywhere at the wildlife sanctuary, not only enclosed, they were just everywhere. And I don't know if all the ones that I saw were the same species, just different sizes, different colors, or different sexes or whatever. But yeah, some of them are green with a touch of maybe purple. Some of them are just more brown. Some of them are huge. Some of them are small. Some of them are tame, as in they're not too worried about you being close. My brother went up to one at where were we? We were at a botanical garden, and he got real close up to one. I'll put that on the screen right now because yeah, and then I took a video and photo of that with a different lens, which I've also just recorded a video for if you're interested in. But yeah, those things were pretty lizardy. I saw an emu for the first time. Well, at the sanctuary wasn't the first time I saw an emu. I saw an emu at another sanctuary that we went to that's in Brisbane. And I never paid attention, but I always assumed that if I were to see an emu and an ostrich next to one another that I'd get confused. But there is no question about which one's which. They're completely different birds. Naturally, I saw a lot of kangaroos because I went to various sanctuaries. I didn't get to see a kangaroo out on the roads or anything like that. Maybe next time I go visit my brother-in-law, and maybe we'll do a road trip that's closer to the outback. I wouldn't mind experiencing some experience, not necessarily the outback, but take some sort of road trip that takes us along some sort of outback route. Maybe we'll see maybe we'll see kangaroos then. But I saw quite a bunch of them, and at the sanctuaries you can go and you can feed them and you can even touch them. They're pretty chill. Oh yeah, so this looks like a koala is laughing at me, but it really was just sneezing. Yeah, on the topic of the autofocus through cages, which I couldn't rely on, so I used manual focus. This red-tailed black cockatoo was at a cage, and no matter what angle I tried to angle myself at, I couldn't get rid of the shadow at the eye. So I decided to just embrace that shadow at the eye, shoot through the cage manually, and I think it came out to be quite a cool image. I'm glad I at least tried to capture it, and I'm glad I got something out of that little debacle. Saw some interesting flora. And any animals that I might forget that I've seen, I'll put that video on the screen now, along with any video maybe that is appropriate for that video, and then I'll see you in like maybe a few seconds or so. those are a few shots, a few photos, a few videos from my time at the Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary. I will definitely be returning to that place when I go to Brisbane again. I had such a good time. It was so refreshing, hot, but just refreshing to be immersed in that area. It's a shame. I've heard that because it's not privately owned or government owned, that it doesn't receive any government funding. I understand that rules are rules and stuff. So it's quite a shame because privately owned sanctuaries get government funding. But apparently the Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary is run predominantly on donations and volunteers. And if you're ever in the area along the Gold Coast, it's in Currumbin, I would recommend you go visit. It really is a cool experience. With regard to my lens, my 24-105 f4, you know how I feel about it. I'm happy to be making another video about it. I'm sure I'll be making more videos about it because it's the lens that pretty much lives on my camera, except for when I'm experimenting with old lenses that I found at markets and stuff. Right now I'm on I should know what I'm on. It's for my Pentacon 6TL, but I've adapted it to an adapter to my Lumix S5. Shall we leave it at that? Yes. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here, folks. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the videos. I hope you enjoyed the photos. I hope you enjoyed my words. I think another light just went out. The lights over there that you probably can't even see in this video. It was for the previous video. Don't forget to keep taking photos, keep making videos, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers. And if you haven't watched my first video covering this lens, feel free to check it out, linked on the screen right now or linked in the description below.